and this can all be done. One of the biggest myths people are told is that they have to invest for 30 to 40 years and be planning for some long, far out there time in the future, that they don't understand all the variables, what they're going to be. We don't know between now and 30 years from now what inflation is going to be. We don't know what the market risks are going to be. We don't know what the boom bust cycles are going to look like. We don't know what the political landscape looks like. We don't know what the economy will be there. We don't understand, because we have no clarity on those things or the sequence of return risk that comes into play at those points in times. Here's the thing. It's not just about how much money do you have saved. It's about what will that money do for you. And in order to be able to invest with a strategy that will help you have complete clarity and have your hands on this, you have to focus on a different kind of strategy. And that's why we wrote the book Cash Flow Hacking, and that's why we really focus on cash flow investing. Now, hey, what's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and for this video, I want to talk to you about the 4 major benefits of infinite banking. Now, when we talk about infinite banking, and one of the biggest things that I can say is I always harp on the fact that infinite banking, when you utilize whole life insurance as a properly designed policy as a key component of your financial strategy, it is not an investment in and of itself. It is a force multiplier. It is something that is going to help amplify your results in your life. It's something that when you think about your finances, it's getting out of the normal paradigm of thinking in the way that people typically strategize for personal financial gain, right? For planning for their future. And instead of just planning from here forward, it forces you to get to the end and start with the end in mind and reverse engineer a process and come up with what are your objectives, what are your desired results, and then how do you reverse engineer accomplishing said results, right? And so to be able to do that, it's really important to understand that it's not just going to happen, right? Like, you have to be intentional about your life, about your design of your finances, to be able to make sure everything is in a row. And when you get to that level, now you start thinking, okay, what do I need my money to do for me? And this is way more than just like, I want a bigger return. I want to get a better rate of return on my money and my investments. That's pretty much where most people's thoughts of conversations around money end. They don't understand all the variables, all the elements that come into play when it comes to, are you going to be successful with your financial strategy or not? Ultimately, there's a lot more that comes into the conversation, into the equation, so to speak. And so for this video, what I want to go through are the 4 things that millionaires really think about, that 4 things that millionaires their objectives that millionaires have with their money, that they need their money to do for them to be successful. And ultimately, as I go through these 4, I think it's going to break down. It's going to be really clean for you. It's going to help you understand, because I think a lot of times people in my position, and I always do my best to try to take these complex ideas and break them down into their simplest parts. That's the whole idea of our new book, Cash Flow Hacking, which just got released, by the way, so super excited about that. You can check it out in the link below. That's not the purpose of this video, but it is there if you want to go check it out. It's on Amazon. We do have a book funnel coming, so you'll be able to get it cheaper than going to Amazon. If you want to wait a day or two, it's going to be coming out. However, here's the deal. Let's get into the objectives that millionaires have with their money, because understanding that it's gonna break down when we talk about never invest in anything you don't understand, when we talk about having more control with your money, when we talk about just all the moving parts with money, it all plays in some capacity, some way, shape, or form into these 4 areas. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to go through and I want to talk about ultimately the 4 things. I'm gonna list them out first, and then I'm gonna go through them one by one and talk in a little bit more detail of why they are so important to understand, and why literally, as complicated as the financial world is, it literally comes down to these 4 things. And if you can look at your money in the context of these 4 things, your decisions around your money, your decisions around what you do to achieve your desired objectives in your life are going to be greatly impacted. This is ultimately a filter when you look at any investment, any asset that you want to, potentially invest in. This is a filter that will help you make those decisions, if you will, right? So the first objective that millionaires have is they want a greater rate of return, right? They want to get a good rate of return. Now, I always kind of downplay the return component of it because I think, that's, if you focus only on that, it's a really dangerous thing. And what they also want to do is they want to increase their control, right? They want to increase the control of their money. So when you go greater rate of return and you have increased control of your money, that's going to allow you to create more because you're going to be investing in things that you understand, and you're going to have more control of the results in your life. Now, on the other side of it, what they're looking to do is they want to reduce their risk and they want to reduce their tax exposure. So when you look at those two things, that will reduce the tax expense and it will reduce the chance of losses. And when you have an increase of control and returns and a decrease of tax exposure and losses and the chance and the risk of that, that's what makes money come through in spades. That's what helps you get faster results on a more predictable basis. And ultimately, that's what makes it rain with money in your life and helps you achieve what we call your freedom number, financial freedom, as quickly as possible. And this can all be done. One of the biggest myths people are told is that they have to invest for 30 to 40 years and be planning for some long, far out there time in the future that they don't understand all the variables, what they're going to be. We don't know between now and 30 years from now what inflation is going to be. We don't know what the market risks are going to be. We don't know what the boom bust cycles are going to look like. We don't know what the political landscape looks like. We don't know what the economy will be there. We don't understand because we have no clarity on those things or the sequence of return risk that comes into play at those points in times. Here's the thing. It's not just about how much money do you have saved. It's about what will that money do for you. And in order to be able to invest with a strategy that will help you have complete clarity and have your hands on this, you have to focus on a different kind of strategy. And that's why we wrote the book Cash Flow Hacking. And that's why we really focus on cash flow investing. Now, here's the bottom line. When you look at this is what almost every successful investor does in the world. We don't invest in anything that we don't understand, and we make sure that we're putting our energy into areas that we know we're going to have some semblance of control of the results, right? Now, here's the bottom line. Most people don't do this because of the fact that they're outsourcing their financial plan. They're outsourcing that risk. And if I had $1 for every time I had somebody blame their financial advisor for what happened in 2008, I'd probably own an island at this point in time, right? Like, too many people scapegoated, their misfortune on their financial advisor. But the reality is, if you want to be able to get the results that you want in your life, it's important to understand that if you work for 40 years, if you're planning for retirement for 30 years, those 2008 scenarios are pretty predictable. We don't know what they're going to look like. We don't know if it's going to be a dot-com bubble. We don't know if it's going to be a crisis like we had in the early 80s at the end of the Cold War. We don't know if it's going to be a COVID situation. We don't know if it's going to be a real estate crisis. We never know what it's going to be, but we know it's going to be, right? Like, we can look through 200 years of history in the United States economy, and without fail, and pretty much every economy around the world goes through these cycles because human behavior is a major factor in these boom and bust cycles. And we know they're going to happen. In over 30 to 40 years, you're going to have 4 to 5 situations where you have a boom cycle that busts. That is like clockwork. And I could go back in time and show you time and time and time again that is going to be the scenario. So it is at your own peril that you do not plan for that. And that is why wealthy people understand that you have to have these 4 things. You need to have a good rate of return. You need to have control of your money. And the control, here's the deal. The rate of return, I'm gonna kind of breeze past that one. Now, the rate of return, obviously we all want to get the best rate of return we can, right? Okay, we'll all agree on that one, right? Now, the control, you want increased control. Why is control so important? Well, having control of your money is important because you don't need it when things are going well, right? Like, everybody's doing well. It's not a matter of those scenarios. What matters is having control when the market collapses, when the market corrects. I shouldn't say collapse, because collapse is like ultimate doomsday. When it corrects, let's say it goes down 20, 30, 40%. And when it goes down 20, 30, 40%, you need to have control of your money to take advantage of opportunity. You need to have control of your money to make sure that you have it available capital in case of emergency, and you combine those two things together, and that's going to get you where you want to go. And so here's the bottom line. When we talk about the decrease in risk, right? That is the importance of this, right? So when you increase your control and you have access to the money in times of economic correction, let's say like the bust portion of the cycle, when you have that control and you have that money inside of an account that can't lose money, that's guaranteed and it's liquid, now you're putting yourself in a position where now everybody around you is struggling and you have access to all this capital and the world is on sale. Think about it. You're able to show up completely differently in the world. You're able to show up looking for opportunity. You're thinking opportunistically and optimistically about the prospects of how to create wealth. And when we're thinking about how to create wealth, when everybody else is thinking about how to create wealth, and when we're thinking about how to create wealth in those environments, it's a much more competitive landscape. But when we're thinking about how to create wealth in a negatively performing market, when everybody's making poor decisions, that means your opportunity for success goes through the roof. So that is the importance of that. And then obviously reducing your lifetime tax exposure is extremely important. I've done a lot of videos on that. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that topic right now, but that is that. So if you have any questions, those are the 4 things that millionaires need their money and require their money, the objectives that they have their money doing for them. And if they will not perform all of those actions, they do not do them. Anything less than having all 4 of those is putting yourself at in some facet of risk, and it's important to understand that. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get engaged with every single one of them. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, click the bell. That way you get notified every time I launch a new video. And as always, until next video, have a blessed, inspirational day, and we'll talk to you then. See ya.